New details tonight in the deadly shooting of a Springfield youth football coach. Details that investigators say show he was an aggressor in that confrontation.
The case is now closed with no charges filed, but his community is turning its focus to honoring his legacy, raising money for the kids he coached. Western Mass News reporter Madison Lazowski joins us live in studio to explain tonight. Madison.
Chris and Amanda, while many are still processing the new details that were released about this case, people who grew up with Murchison tell us they're determined to keep his impact on local kids from being forgotten. Now, the Hamden District Attorney's Office says the investigation found that Murchison's death on July 5th began with a social media dispute and ended with a single gunshot at the house of the people that Murchison knew. Authorities say a fight at the homeowner's property that was initiated by Murchison took place, and he allegedly took out a gun, pointed it at the homeowner, and that's when the homeowner's wife stepped in, pulling the trigger on her own firearm. Now, despite these details, friends and former classmates remember Murchison as someone who invested in Springfield's youth, especially through football. And now, classmates from Putnam's class of 2008 say that they've started collecting money first to support his family and now to support the team Murchison was preparing to coach this season.
He loved the community. He loved the youth. Everything that we've ever talked about, like in high school, and all his endeavors that he wanted to do, he set out to do. They loved Bobby, and we spoke highly of who he was, what he represented, and they are all in.
Ariana Horn, who served as class president alongside Murchison as class vice president, says that the extra money will go to the 7U Springfield Tigers team, helping to cover expenses such as uniforms and travel. Horn says the organization is on board and plans are being made to distribute the collected funds at their banquet next month.
And if the tables were turned, he would do the exact same thing.
Horn is collecting donations for the children through the end of the month. For information on how to donate, head to our website at westernmassnews.com. Now, as for the incident itself, the DA's office says that the case is closed, concluding that the woman acted lawfully in defense of her husband. For now, reporting live in studio, Madison Lazowski, Western Mass News.